reading from Canto 9, Chapter 11. It looks like we're going to start with 18. 9, 11, 18. Then there's no purport, so we'll go forward a little bit. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. It's okay, it's okay. Tato Jayamudirayat. I want to read something. Someone sent me this morning. This is particularly for you. You get the service of leading kirtan sometimes, right? Okay. Here we go. You'll appreciate this. This is April 9th, 1976, Ram Navami, appearance day of Ramachandra, fasting till 4 p.m. This is Hari Sori's diary. At midday arati, some devotees were singing over the microphone a mantra glorifying Sitaram. Raghupati Raghava Rajaram, you know. Patita Pavana Sitaram. They were also chanting some other mantras. Paragraph. Srila Prabhupada sent me into the temple with the message that they should stop. He wanted them to simply chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra since it automatically includes Lord Ram. He said that other mantras were not necessary. Just in case. Somebody may, poke you in the ribs and say, I have my favorite one, or something like that. Anyway, it's nice. Prabhupada, ki jai. Okay, here we go. So, I'm just going to read the translation for 18, since there's no purport, and then we'll go to the next one. After Mother Sita entered the earth, Lord Ramachandra observed complete celibacy and performed an uninterrupted Agni Hotra Yagya for 13,000 years. Uninterrupted means when one is done, the next one starts, etc. So he did means he was engaging brahmanas that did. 13,000 years, no purport. Then we'll chant the Sanskrit together for text 19. Smaratam hridi vinyasya vidham dandaka kantakai swapada palavam rama atmayonir agat tataha. After completing the sacrifice, Lord Ramachandra, whose lotus feet were sometimes pierced by thorns when he lived in Dandakaranya, placed those lotus feet in the hearts of those who always think of him. Then he entered his own abode, the Vaikuntha planet, beyond the Brahma-jyoti. Purport. The lotus feet of the Lord are always a subject matter for meditation for devotees. Sometimes, when Lord Ramachandra wandered in the forest of Dandakaranya, thorns pricked his lotus feet. The devotees, upon thinking of this, would faint. The Lord does not feel pain or pleasure from any action or reaction of the material world, but The devotees cannot tolerate even the pricking of the Lord's lotus feet by a thorn. This was the attitude of the gopis when they thought of Krishna wandering in the forest with pebbles and grains of sand pricking his lotus feet. This tribulation in the heart of a devotee cannot be understood by karmis, gyanis, or yogis. The devotees who could not tolerate even thinking of the Lord's lotus feet being pricked by a thorn were again put into tribulation by thinking of the Lord's disappearance. For the Lord has to return to his abode after finishing his pastimes in this material world. Paragraph. The Atma-jyoti is significant. The word Atma-jyoti is significant. The Brahma-jyoti, which is greatly appreciated by the Gyanis, or monist philosophers who desire to enter it for liberation, is nothing but the rays of the Lord's body. Then a verse from Brahma-samhita. Yasya prabha prabhavato jagadanda koti koti svashesha vasudhadi vibhoti binnam tad brahma nishkalam anantam vashesha bhutam govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is endowed with great power. The glowing effulgence of his transcendental form is the impersonal Brahman, which is absolute, complete, and unlimited, and which displays the varieties of countless planets with their different opulences in millions and millions of universes. 540 Brahma-samhita. The Brahma-jyoti is the beginning of the spiritual world, and beyond the Brahma-jyoti are the Vaikuntha planets. In other words, the Brahma-jyoti stays outside the Vaikuntha planets, just as the sunshine stays outside the sun. Interesting comparison, huh? To enter the sun planet, one must go through the sunshine. Similarly, when the Lord or his devotees enter the Vaikuntha planets, they go through the Brahma-jyoti. The Gyanis, or monistic philosophers, because of their impersonal conception of the Lord, cannot enter the Vaikuntha planets. But they also cannot stay eternally in the Brahma-jyoti. Thus, after some time, they fall again to this material world. Aruya Krishtrena param padam tata patantyado nadrita yushmat angrayaha. Bhagavatam 10:2-32. The Vaikuntha planets are covered by the Brahma-jyoti, and therefore one cannot properly understand what those Vaikuntha planets are unless one is a pure devotee. Well, philosophy within the storyline. The winding up of the Lord's pastimes takes place in different ways and different forms of the Lord. Sometimes devotees disappear in a way similar to how he disappears, to enter into a deity form and gone. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. After his otherworldly exhibition of love and separation from Krishna, although he's Krishna himself. So it's mind-boggling, and what he did was mind-boggling, and how he disappeared is also. He entered into the body of Gopinath. And specifically, the pujaris will sometimes, if you're very fortunate, and a few rupees, they'll lift the cloth of the deity and show the place in his left knee where he entered into the deity form. Pretty exciting, pretty mysterious. In one sense, he's Krishna himself, so no problem. But in the mood of Srimati Radharani, in feelings of separation from Krishna, it's appropriate. I mean, who could do it better than Lord Chaitanya? So, uninterrupted Agnihotra Yajna for 13,000 years. Pretty intense. Certainly setting a standard for the means of attaining perfection for that age. Yajna. How fortunate were those Brahmins who performed the yajna in rotation, presumably one after the next, after the next, after the next. Still the same, as we mentioned yesterday, in the process of the deity installation of Krishna Balaram on Ram Navami Day, 1975, there was Abhishek, and there was also fire yajna. So fire yajna with all the the mantras and the 4 priests, and it was pretty fantastic. Prabhupada insisted while that was going on, there was kirtan, just in case they made some mistakes. Because conditioned souls make mistakes. And who's beyond the conditioning, even if one is an impeccable brahmana, knowing mantras, etc., etc. Go ahead. We'll wait. Purification and fixing one's mind, exactly as was said with the first one that was done, and the reciprocation with the brahmanas, etc., etc. Then Sita's departure, and presumably to pacify his heart, that is the feelings of transcendental separation. So it's transcendental because, like this nice verse from Canto 5, there's no question that Ram, Sita, and Lakshman were separated. They're inseparable. So if that's a fact, then what's going on? It's love, and a lila that's an exhibition of love in particular features. There's the meeting, and there's the marriage, and there's the this and that. There's different emotions. Heartstrings are being pulled by Ramachandra and Sita. They're enjoying They don't enjoy that pastime in Ayodhya, in the spiritual world. There's no such thing. They're eternal. Eternally consorts. There's no marriage. There's no breaking of the bow. There's no... So he enjoys. It's for his pleasure. One time somebody asked Prabhupada, because there's so much suffering and misery in the material world, why did God create the material world? And Prabhupada's answer, purposeful, because the man was a materialist. He said, for enjoyment. And then the man looked really happy. Oh, we're supposed to enjoy. That's what it was created for. But he didn't say, he just smiled, and Prabhupada said, not for your enjoyment, for his. Now, how is it enjoyable? Because people are suffering. It's the corrective measure. That's supposing someone's a benevolent government officer or a loving parent or something like that, or a teacher in a classroom and someone is not behaving nicely. So there may be some discipline, but a loving person, when exercising discipline, it says as loving as their embrace, because correction is needed to bring about a correction of course, and a correction of mood, and a correction of behavior and speech. Still on the receiving end, so a student or a child or something, a citizen in the country or a citizen in the state, are they going to understand if there's some discipline that comes from the authority figure, that it's lovingly done? Well, maybe not, or even probably not, because selfish desire is I'm at the center, and I'm not enjoying. So, and you're the cause of my. It's all mixed up. The material emotions, and so spiritual is altogether different. Altogether. So the flow of all these events connected with Sita starting, or Lakshmana, and there were circumstances where Ramachandra chastised Lakshmana. Fully surrendered. He's living with them voluntarily, living with them in the forest, and he made a mistake. And Ramachandra chastised him. Why did you do this? And anyway, Lakshmana was looking at the ground and ashamed. And he gave his explanation. It's a Leela. But the chastisement of Lakshmana, or the personality of Godhead with any one of us, it's loving. The purpose is a loving exchange. So maybe a tap on the shoulder or a bonk on the head or something to correct us from deviating from real happiness. Recently I heard a nice, one of many nice lectures by Hari Parshad Prabhu. And he was describing in his childhood, he had a Sanskrit teacher who was a Mayavadi, but very, very gifted in Sanskrit. There are devotees. The devotee couple that were from Seattle. and they moved to Sringeri Math and had their 2 boys enrolled in the Sanskrit school in Sringeri Math. I'm like, what? But their bhakti wasn't compromised. So Hari Parshad also had such a teacher, and his father was a Vaishnav. So because he's a good teacher. There's other scriptural examples of something like that as well. And he said, my teacher was a disciplinarian. He carried a stick, and he used it. And even in the video, he held up his hand. There's still a mark on my hand from when he whacked me. It wasn't just a love tap. He whacked him. And he said, I have the greatest respect for my teacher because I was a lazy student. And he obviously he learned well from a super qualified teacher. And he has affection for him. Not you hold it against him, because in modern times, a teacher whacking a student, it's child abuse. He's in court. He's in court, facing charges. You don't do that. You don't do that. Anyway, loving discipline is different than cruelty, is the point. And so the pastimes of Ramachandra, it was painful, like anything, for the followers to see Ramachandra in this state of melancholy or separation. Very, very, very sad, shoka. Somebody came up after the class yesterday, and their question was, why was that particular verse spoken by Valmiki to the hunter? Why is that considered by Sri Vaishnavas as the Mangalacharna? That was a nice question. Why? Because it's an expression of, at the very beginning, Mangalacharna commonly comes at the very beginning. Before he even began writing, it's the Mangalacharna of an expression of shoka. And Ramachandra is the presiding deity of shoka, or karuna, and then this whole discussion. Did you receive and circulate? Yes? There's a question was asked, and so some research was done. Karuna, generally, we understand, means compassion. But in Sanskrit, it can also mean sorrow or shoka. He's the presiding deity. So the Ramayana is about the person who's the presiding deity of that rasa, secondary rasa. And that's the book, Ramayana, Mangalacharna. So that's what's, it creates, Mangalacharna creates mangala, or auspiciousness, for the person who hears it. Like Mangala Arti, creating auspiciousness. At the very beginning of Ramayana. So there's sadness, including what we just read. Not only for Ramachandra, for all the citizens, but it's not exclusive to Ramayana. There's so many other examples of that within Krishna's pastimes. I mean, a classic is Uddhava. So the gopis, classic. But what Uddhava understood, very tightly associated with Krishna in Dwarka, his intimate associate, servant, and friend, the combined rasa. And because of that intimacy, he knew Krishna was going to leave. And when Krishna was going to leave in private situation, he approached Krishna and wanted to go with him. Please don't leave me behind. How will I bear existence without you? You're my everything. And long discussion, and the end of it was Krishna didn't take him with him. He gave him some service. Anyway, it's rasa. Supposing one doesn't understand rasa, then you're going to miss a lot. Or you'll judge what Krishna does or doesn't do, or judge what Ram does or doesn't do, or judge personalities within Scripture without understanding the loving exchange, without rasa. It's very dry and confusing and subject to. So mundane consciousness can't appreciate, will not be able to appreciate. That's being stated here also. Therefore, one cannot properly understand what these or those Vaikuntha planets are unless one is a pure devotee, or one has the service of a pure devotee, and then the pure devotee can give light. Om Ajnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshunviditam Yena. So Prabhupada was capable, and how bright was that light? Just this morning, I was listening to a lecture that Prabhupada gave in 1972 in Buffalo. That's where I went to school. That's where I met Prabhupada. That same visit. So he did. I don't know if he visited more than once, but that once, that was enough. And so a nice lecture, and Prabhupada was discussing this verse to the students or those who were attending, because it was mainly students who were attending the center. The center was right across the street from the campus. Right across the street. I mean, a block and a half. And that's where Prabhupada was speaking, this particular class, and describing the Om Ajnana Timarandasya verse, which is same as, what one's eyes closed tightly may open with the torchlight of knowledge, torchlight, and then one can't see and then one can see. It forced me to open my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. So Prabhupada didn't exactly force, but by his efforts again and again, and the writings, he listed, this was just a few years into the movement, and a list of books that he had provided along with traveling around the world and everything, like how luminous was. And therefore, the verse is one offers one's respect to such a person. How can one not? I was blind and now I can see. How can one not feel gratitude and express it and everything else? Dedicate one's activities to that person who forced me to open my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. And all of us, different backgrounds, some very pious, and more than pious, very devotional, but nonetheless, something special. Just a little sharing and I'm going to end. 2 days ago, yesterday, was the funeral for Haridas Das. Haridas was Harvey Cohen, and Harvey Cohen was among the first devotees initiated by Prabhupada, and he just left this world. And his former wife, because he has in recent years been living as a brahmachari, his former wife wrote to one of the ISKCON devotees that she knows, and said, basically, help, because my former husband, Harvey, is in a morgue, and can somebody go and perform proper rituals? And because her former husband, was so attached to Prabhupada. Anyway, every one of us is going to leave this world at some point in time, sooner or later. And it's a loss for those that, there are devotees that had substantial association with him in the early days. Malati and Shamasundar being one, because they were initiated at the same time as he was. And et cetera, et cetera. They knew him very well. While Shamasundar was carving the Jagannath deities in San Francisco, Haridas was living with them. There were the three of them. That's how things were in those days. So, like family. And very, very devoted, totally devoted. I don't know any of the details about his former marriage, but his wife was not resentful. Well, one could be resentful, but she wasn't resentful. She was appreciating how dedicated and devoted her former husband was to Srila Prabhupada. And can somebody reach out? And so the devotees, of course, did that. Took care of everything. When there's transcendental attachment, there's going to be attachment. And if it's not a transcendental attachment, it's going to be a non-transcendental attachment. And that which you're attached to, then the mind goes there because you're attached to whatever that thing is that the mind is attached to, or one's heart is attached to. I'm pausing because I had an exchange with a devotee when it came to the departure of Badrinarayan Swami. And the inside, he was in Vrindavan. He had a desire to, when that time came, he was in control of it, but to leave his body in Vrindavan. So that's what happened. The detail was he went to sleep and he didn't wake up. And, the cause was a mass heart attack or something like that in your sleep. So I don't know that exact cause of death, but my understanding is, and then, where is he going? Back to Godhead. We so dedicated. Has it had a certain personality, and we all have a personality. And his was sometimes and sometimes and sometimes. And sometimes he would chastise. Someone was sharing with me. Badrinarayan Swami chastised this devotee, like severely. And he understood it was coming from a place of love. I mean, it's on the topic. And he didn't have any resentment when he said what he said or towards the person, because he understood where it was coming from. It was a lengthy chastisement in writing, like not just shaking his finger. He blasted him. And he appreciated the place that it was coming from. So, loving exchange can be whatever it is, if one understands the place that it's coming from. Some persons aren't coming from that place, and some persons are. And some persons would never speak like this, like Badrinarayan Swami would speak. But he would. And some people didn't like it. And some people liked it. Because it was very straight and honest and right. Anyway, not everybody's like that. So loving exchange, loving, when you're, main point, whatever you're attached to, that's where the mind goes. That's the teaching. When the soul leaves the body, where's the soul going to go? The answer, whatever the mind is attached to, that's where the soul is going to go, because the mind carries the soul. So how are we doing in becoming attached? Transcendentally attached. Transcendentally means there's no material cause, there's no material impediment. It's transcendental. There's any circumstance, positive, negative. So when sometimes there's a tribulation, where does the mind go? When sometimes there's good fortune, where does the mind go? Those are good litmus tests to see where you're going or what you're attached to, because that's going to determine where you're going. And is it possible to modify? Yes. That's the bhakti process. But it's not just behaviors, it's bhakti. And there's stages of bhakti, and asakti is one of those stages. But that's a very elevated stage, asakti. Beyond ruchi and beyond anartha vritti. So we have a ways to go, but we should understand that's going to, how well we apply ourselves in devotion to the purpose of bhakti, that's going to determine what's next. It's sobering. It's not like intimidation, it's just, that's the way it is. It's up to us. It's where we have our hand on the steering wheel and the gas pedal and brake pedal. And we can make decisions. We make decisions. And time is ticking. So the passage of time is dangerous for the non-devotee, and it's an opportunity for the devotee. Who knows? Who knows how long we'll continue? Any one of us. Who knows? We don't know. It's not a threat, it's just reality. We don't know. So when you don't know, what are you going to do to prepare for what's next? Start now. Qualitatively, bring the mind, by primarily the process of hearing, in the right association and striving to understand, because how many times Prabhupada would say, try to understand. And then fill in the rest of the sentence. Try to understand the teaching, try to understand this movement, try to understand. So that's bringing the mind to transcendence. Intelligence driving the mind towards the goal. But how much do we want the goal? Or how much are we come see, come saw? So. Don't be complacent. Not be intimidated, but be very careful, striving for becoming attached to the Supreme Personality of God. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the best medicine. Every day, and take medicine every day. And the medicine can cure the disease. It will cure the disease. Okay, I'm going to end. Let's see if there's some discussion. 10 minutes after 8.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for the wonderful class. Maharaj, you said Lord Ramachandra displays this pastime of like separation and like seemingly all the troubles for variety or like leela. In material world also people say, when we tell them, you're suffering in the material world, they say, well, having suffering gives variety in the life. Like it's...
They say that?
They say, yeah,
I haven't
they are a
heard that
part
one.
of life. Difficult. They say like it's a part of life,
But
having
no one likes it. They can say that, but they don't like it. That's okay, go ahead, keep going.
So when we have to show the difference of how Lord is going through troubles and how we are going through the troubles, what's the difference? What would we say?
How do you help people understand the difference between material and spiritual?
Spiritual troubles that Lord is going through in the Leela, and when they say, oh, well, Ramachandra also had difficulties, Arjuna also had difficulties.
Yeah, that's true. They also had difficulty. My difficulty is not Arjun's. My difficulty is not Ramachandra's. How to explain to people depends upon the person that you're having this dialogue with. Yes, we have to go through, but it depends on the person, how you answer that question or that disposition. Depend on the thoughtfulness of the person. You could ask why and see what they say. Why? Why is there these two? Why is life this mixed? Why? That's Sanatana Goswami's question. The two questions. Who am I? And why do I have to undergo the threefold miseries? You can say, well, it's life. Just stop whining and complaining. It's life. Just accept it. That's it. Okay, but you could say that, but let's see what happens when your child dies, or your husband or wife dies, or something. You see a vicious car accident, somebody's body is splattered all over the highway. That's life. Come on. When there's identification with the body, yes, it's true on the platform of the body. So it depends on the person. On the platform of the body, there's duality. That's the nature of the place. Sometimes and sometimes. No, it's winter and summer season, so sometimes it's cold and sometimes it's warm. You just have a heater in a cooler. But then step back and say, why? Do you have the answer? To ask them, do you have the answer to why? And let's go look at Chaitanya Charitamrita and what Lord Chaitanya answers to Sanatana Goswami's question, why? And it's the right question. So it depends on the person, how you respond to that. Oh, then let me slap you in the face. Is that okay? You're not going to say okay. Oh, it's just life. Sometimes and sometimes. Hi, Bo.
Thank you so much. My question was, usually when...
A little less.
Okay.
Volume. Your question was?
usually when Lord Krishna or Lord Rama are described, it's described how they impact the world in terms of like if Krishna stepped on a stone, the stone melts, etc.
Yeah.
So why in this scenario is it described how like the thorns hurt Lord Rama's feet or?
Well, the thorns didn't hurt Ram's feet because nothing hurts. He says his body is spiritual. So, but those who were loving him were feeling. That's like the gopis were feeling. You know, even Krishna's feet being placed on our breasts, which are soft, it hurts his feet. No, anyway, it's love knows no bounds. It's not necessarily rational. It's an emotion. Now, sometimes love is connected to rational, and sometimes it's not. Depends on the person and the intensity of that love. So, if your question is yes, Krishna's the touch of Krishna's feet as he melts stones. So there's no pain for him because his feet are butter soft, but at the same time, so it's transcendental. He's not feeling pain, but love is not wishing my beloved to experience pain. And that's natural. Okay? Did that answer your question or no? Little bit. Keep going then.
So I understand that it's a pastime. So
yes, good.
To give the devotees a chance to feel
Yeah.
But I don't understand why specifically this.
Why specifically?
Why specifically Ram being hurt or Lord Ram?
He wasn't.
Well, why is he representing?
Well, he's not. Oh, his transcendental motion of separation from Sita, that?
No, I mean, yes, but in this specific scenario, it's
Which one? Which specific scenario?
the thorns.
But so let's go to the text and hear what you're asking about. Okay, right at the very beginning.
Yes.
The lotus feet of the Lord are always subject matter for meditation for devotees. Sometimes, when Lord Ramachandra wandered in the forest of Dandakaranya, thorns pricked his lotus feet. Thorns didn't prick his lotus feet. But those who have bodies and thorns prick their lotus feet, they're thinking, oh, he's walking through the forest barefoot. He's experienced, so it's projection of my experience upon he who doesn't have that same experience.
Okay, that's what I was.
Okay. The devotees, upon thinking of this, would faint. But, the reality was he's not. It's okay. But they're thinking that, they're feeling that, they faint. Because they don't want him to experience pain, but he's not experiencing pain. But they're not thinking, oh, he's no pain, no problem for him, he can go barefoot. Love. And not recognizing the object of love in fullness. Because that love is not, he's a in Vaikuntha, there's very clear, Narayana is the personality of Godhead. In the case of Ramachandra, he's the personality of Godhead, but they're not seeing like that. They can be seeing like that. The Brahman is the beginning of this chapter. They're seeing him like that. But at the same time, he's acting as if he's a king, or he's one of us. He's in this world. And so if he's in this world, he feels pain. And they faint. They can't bear it. Their love is so intense. So it's a transcendental emotion. It's rasa. And for those who are transcendentally attached, it's a transcendental rasa. Who faints when they think of someone having, discomfort in their feet? Who faints? You can cry, maybe, or feel sad or something. It's intensity of love. There's no pain. He'd ask for shoes. He went barefoot. He had to give him 500 pairs of shoes, no problem. No. Forest life needs this. So, faint. Okay? Okay. Yes?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
You're going to check your online questions because you already always have some. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, thank you for this session. So Maharaj, yesterday you were talking about the two birds Radharani captured. And
Yes.
So when we hear those stories, it's sometimes overwhelming. Okay, so I'm doing this activity, so what might happen in the next life? Sometimes.
Okay. Go ahead, think like that.
So how to come out of that?
How to come out of what?
The overwhelming situations.
Well, this is simple. Whatever Krishna wants. That's the service mood. I'm the servant, there's the master, whatever he wants. If he wants me to be in difficulty, fine. That's not difficulty. That's a loving relationship. It's a loving reciprocation. Now, it's how to get out of it is your question. And the answer is being attached to and having an understanding of the Supreme Person. It's a little bit like, I'm sure you remember, the argument that when Ramachandra was speaking with Sugriva, saying, Sugriva was saying, yeah, but he's a motivated person. He knows that Ravana is going to be killed by you, and he's going to get the kingdom. So he's a self-interested fellow. I don't trust him. Self-interested persons, I don't trust. Then one of the arguments Ramachandra gives is, supposing you're right, with a slightest gesture of my hand, he's finished, because I have that power. So for the personality of Godhead, there's no limit, because so that's one of the conditions that the Sri Vaishnava acharyas present, the Sharanya and Sharanagata. So become attached to the one who is all-powerful. And that the medium of that is through the representatives of those who are the all-powerful, those who are fully devoted to the all-powerful. So you have affinity for that, and that's how you get out of it. You have a better way? You have another way? Okay. So that's how. And that's our bhakti teaching. And it's true. It's not cosmetic, it's true. And there isn't another way. But it's a nice way, so embrace it, take it, as you say, get out of it. The conundrum of, I'm trapped in material existence. We're not. We are, circumstantially, but there's the alternative. That's why we're here. Someone else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, that was a wonderful class. I feel like I had so many questions and you just answered in the class.
Wow.
Yes. So one of the questions I had is Lord Ram is the presiding deity, you said.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Like when we are in sorrow, should we worship Lord Ram?
No. It means, it's like, the sun God is responsible for light in the universe. So he's the presiding deity of light in the universe. Other lights in the universe come from the sun God. So he, Ramachandra, is the presiding deity. He doesn't create, but he facilitates for a reason. The facilitation of secondary rasa is to enhance the primary rasa. So he facilitates us coming to that stage. So in his lila, but also in life. In the lila of Ramayana, there's plenty of shoka, or sorrow. But that's compassion at the same time. So then, aside from the book, or the history of Ramachandra, then there's our lives. And the one who has confidence, shelter, this is back to her question, we have shelter in Lord Ramachandra, then everything is okay. There's nothing that's not okay. Everything is okay. And whatever, it's okay. It's okay. Because so my consciousness is with full absorption in Lord Ramachandra. I'm a Ram Bhakta, and my consciousness is fully absorbed in Ramachandra. Then whatever happens is okay, because he's my place of shelter, and even if it's calamity. Like we heard, a few days back, with the associates of Ramanujacharya, and their eyes were poked out. I mean, where's the protection? It's not like bad things will never happen if you're an elevated devotee. Just become an elevated devotee. You won't have any hardship. You won't have any mishap. You won't have any misfortune. It won't happen. Misfortune can come, but there's the fortune is, the love of Lord Ramachandra, the love of Ramanujacharya for his dear devotees, and they feel that, seeing or not seeing. Anyway, and then other things happened, and other things happened. So that soul, Kuresha, for example, and Mahapurna, they weren't bereft of the greatest value wasn't their eyesight, it was their love for Ramachandra, for Ramanujacharya, and thus the personality of Godhead, Narayana. So they weren't bereft. And what's their destination because of that? Their destination is already determined. So, protection, ma suchaha. Protection is guaranteed, and have no fear. Protection doesn't mean mishap will not happen on the physical plane. Protection means spiritual protection. And and in many cases, exceptional protection on the physical plane by some divine arrangement or another. But even if that's not the case, if that's the opposite happens, misfortune comes, it's okay. Because the ultimate purpose is not taken. It can't be taken. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Really? Okay. There's a WhatsApp question. Okay, give him the microphone. We're going to end with this.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. The question is, in Goloka and Vaikuntha, what kind of leelas performed by lords?
What kind?
Yes.
Happy. Blissful. Because of the nature of transcendence, because there's no mother and father in the case of Vaikuntha, so it's the adult form, the Krishna's form. You know, there's different explanations, but he's eternally 16. So the childhood pastimes are not pastimes, but then the other features of Krishna's pastimes and Ramachandra's pastimes, his youthful pastimes, they're all there. Without fear, without modes of nature. So, same pastimes as in this realm, in the upper realm, without demons, without conflicts. That's what kind. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
His Holiness Prabhupada Maharaj ki Jai.